Welcome to America's Heroes Group. This week is our roundtable with clean energy infrastructure partner Zodiac Solutions, LLC. Today is Saturday, August 6, 2022. August is National Wellness Month. Be well this month. Our host is Kelley. Heard him during the intro. My name is Sean Claiborne. I'm the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. We have our partner on the line, Mr. Rob Howard, and Mr. Rod Matthew. Rod Howard is a U.S. Navy veteran and president and CEO of Zodiac Solutions, LLC. And Rod Matthew, he's a U.S. Navy veteran and owner of Brevian Energy, specializing in microgrid technologies and renewable energy. If we want to talk about something that happened recently, Chuck Schumer and Joe Manchin, two of our distinguished congressmen, have drafted a climate change bill and how it will help local cities and states develop clean energy infrastructure. We want to talk about that and find out how veterans in particular, but people around the world, around the country, can benefit from making this world a little bit more efficient with how we use energy. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
So tell us about, first of all, give us some information about what's in this bill, first of all. I know there's a lot of stuff going on with this bill. And then also maybe walk us through, if you have any information about how there was a lot of back and forth about this bill. We talked about before, on one of our earlier shows, we mentioned about the Build Back Better plan and some of the infrastructure and microgrid technology and some of the investment inside of clean energy. And then some of that didn't quite get through. And then now we have this new bill that's out here.
Right. I would say just from the beginning, for those who don't know, when you're talking about huge pieces of legislation, there's a lot of what they call sausage making. So I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves, but this bill does look like it's ready to cross the finish line because they have enough votes. Senator Sinema from Arizona has signed on. I won't get into the weeds on that, but there were some other things that she wanted. But a lot of it is there's a few key categories that they talked about. One, they're talking about lowering the energy costs for Americans. They're talking about energy security. We want to increase that. And then talking about decarbonization. But what I've been going through certain sections of it, and the parts that jump out to me, there's one key factor right away, is that it's important for veterans and veteran-owned businesses and then communities. You must be connected with your local government, your state government, even at the county level, because a number of these, the overwhelming majority of these funds flow through one of those governmental entities. So that's important to look at. And the other one is knowing with those connections, having ideas of what you want to see happen. For example, if you're in an area and there's a factory or a warehouse that's using diesel engine trucks coming in and out, you may want to look at how there's funding from the EPA on how to reduce those diesel emissions. But there's also in a section, and I'm flipping through paper now because this thing it's interesting. Low emission electricity program in section 60107 for those folks who are into the numbers. They have a huge amount of funding that would be associated with education programs, which allows your local nonprofits to get engaged. You can focus on weatherization of apartment buildings, but at the same time, now you've got money for to look at those. I have a large apartment building. I may want to come up with a microgrid for the apartment building and things like that. And I'll stop there because I could go on and on about this. But the biggest thing is the climate pieces, including how we treat our forests to try to work on forest fires. They've got a lot of that in there.
Wow. So this is a $370 billion bill as it stands right now. And a lot of the things that are in this bill also are designed to address, I guess, inflation, because if we can start building, we talked about one of our shows with you guys about building the infrastructure necessary for electric cars and having charging stations all over the country, especially on major highways and things like that. If we can get off our dependency of fossil fuels, when inflation kicks in, one of the biggest parts of inflation is fuel costs. So if fuel costs are really high, it drives the price of everything up. It becomes more expensive to put products inside trucks, that more expensive to use anything that that's driven or taken to your house by a vehicle. that price of that item is going to go up if fuel prices go up. So what are we doing in regards to that infrastructure that's going to go in place to get more charging stations for the electric cars that are on their way? Rod, you have that. What can you tell us about that?
I don't want to cut anybody out. I want to make sure because I'm in on the phone. But one of the things that they're actually trying to do, first of all, the Inflation Reduction is twofold. One of the pieces they're doing is deficit reduction, and we cannot forget about that. When they do deficit reduction, we're paying less interest, which actually works back through what the government is having to pay out. It allows more money to be available. So that deficit reduction is a huge portion to that. The other piece is what they're doing is everything from clean heavy-duty vehicles. They've got like $1 billion that's going to the EPA for everything from all your local heavy-duty vehicles, garbage trucks, dump trucks, big, huge city vehicles. They're going to be funding grants to support that. And so what they're looking at is when you have clean energy, because it could be hydrogen. It may not necessarily be electric. Okay. Hydrogen vehicles are available, particularly the hydrogen for those larger vehicles is right now where we are in the evolution. That's what they're using. They're using compressed hydrogen for garbage trucks, big dump trucks, and things like that. They've got a huge $1 billion for that. They're targeting low-income communities for that funding. So when you're riding through the grants with the EPA, if you're in a low-income area where they're trying to do that particular city, these cities really need to get in on that. Another one is if you're on a port city, which I found was kind of interesting. They're trying to reduce – people don't realize how much pollution happens at ports. You've got all the trucks that are carrying these supplies for the supply chain, but they sit, and they sit for quite a long time. They're trying to reduce air pollution at the ports by doing that. So basically what they'll have it set up to where the trucks don't have to just sit there. They'll create more infrastructure there. And when you're creating that infrastructure for these larger vehicles, it leaves the ports into the supply chain because those trucks are having to move. Well, guess what? You're going to be building infrastructure for charging outside of just the ports. So it seems that there's some thought of what the entire infrastructure looks like, and the key agency for people to start looking on their website for grant opportunities as they're putting their plans together is the Environmental Protection Agency. So looking at that for the charging stations and locally, you've got funding that allows you to they don't even specifically say charging stations. What they say in some of the language is they want you to develop greenhouse gas reducing infrastructure. I interpret that as EVs, but it allows you, in case you want to do something else like weatherization of homes, like ensuring that we have electric appliances. There's funding for people who want to buy appliances. There's funding for that. So at this level so far, it looks broad enough to allow you to customize locally. And that's the thing I like, is that because, each community is going to be different. Mm-hmm. Some communities may want to put in some solar, but other communities may actually want to use wind technology. Yeah, and then, integrating in the battery storage. So right now, I would just say we need to start digging in. Like I said, I've got 40 pages in front of me right now going through it. I'm watching as they move through with the votes, because if anything changes, that's going to change what actually comes out of the bill.
So there's a lot of incentives, grants and loans and tax incentives, what I understand in this bill. So if people want to do things to their home to make it more energy efficient, or if they invest in some of this technology as small business owners, they can get money back. Is that correct?
Yes, and what's interesting about it is, let's say you have a manufacturing plant. Mm-hmm. You've got multiple opportunities because you can get in on the infrastructure piece, you can get on the greenhouse gas reduction piece. So again, at your home, there's incentives. There's even incentives for electric vehicles. There was one line where they're going to give $4,000 rebates if you're buying a used electric vehicle, and then $7,500 if you're buying a new electric vehicle. So you've got infrastructure pieces, you've got purchasing of electrical equipment. So we're going to need, honestly, I tell you, I'm hoping that people really take this infrastructure piece seriously, and there are carve-outs for low-income communities. And so communities that are typically left behind, I'm going through this, and on several occasions, they will put out $2 billion to work on that part of the infrastructure, but 50% of it has to go to low-income communities. Now, that's not all urban. Remember, a lot of low-income communities will be rural, and so as you're looking at those small towns, so I think there's something in it for everyone. You just got to go. You got to go digging. You know how people mine crypto, or you need to do some mining through this bill to figure out what works best. My suggestion to people is figure out what it is you're trying to do, then look at what's available to do it. Talk to your cities, talk to your counties, talk to your nonprofits that are trying to do environmental justice in your community, because what happens is this stuff gets forgotten about, but we got to get in front of it. And I don't know if you can tell, but I am really excited about it.
It sounds really exciting because there's a lot of stuff, like I said, that can really improve quality of life for people around the country. And then this is something that we need to really get on top of, because there's a lot of business opportunities and savings for people that are wanting to do things to make their energy costs lower. You know, have a car that that doesn't take $6-7 a gallon gas. Right now, we're seeing all these high fuel prices right now across the country. I think a lot of people are starting to think about and reconsider whether or not they want that electric car. Maybe they want to invest for that power charging station in their garage, so they don't have to pay these expensive. You're paying $500-600 a month in gas. That's another car note.
It is amazing. I talked to a gentleman who works at one of the community choice energy groups. He has an electric vehicle, and now he is out charging at different charging stations. He drives 4 to 5 times as many miles as his wife, who has, a moderate, it's not a gas guzzler, but he drives 5 times as many miles, and she pays 5 times as much to refuel the vehicle.
Wow.
That's the difference we're talking about. And it's also important for people to recognize one other item that kind of jumped out at me. Some of these are time sensitive. So they've given you till about the fiscal year of 2024, which is in September 30th, 2024, to actually put in for these grants. So it's not like it's a rush, but remember, there's only so much funding. So put your plans together, start looking at what you want to do as a community, but also what you want to do as an individual. If you've been thinking about it, now's the time to really give it a hard look. If you're worried about the heavy investment for a brand new vehicle, then get a used EV, electric vehicle.
Yeah, $4,000 tax credit sounds good. With a used $4,000 tax credit for a used EV?
For a used EV. Now, that's the federal money inside of this bill once it passes. Check with your states, because some of them, like in California, they're trying to come up with basically matching funds for that. I mean, it's up to us. It's up to us to really dig in and figure out how this is going to work.
So what was the holdup? It seemed like something like this was long overdue. Well, why didn't it come out sooner? And we're saying right now we think it's going to pass. Looks like it's got a lot of bipartisan support in Congress. What's the likelihood of this passing? But what took so long?
I think, again, having spent time watching what happens in Congress, a lot of it has to do with money in politics. There are a lot of people who don't want to pay any more in taxes, period. There are people who want what they call smaller government, as long as they don't have to They want big government when it benefits them, but smaller government when it comes to them having to pay more taxes or other people getting the support they need. Because, again, when you take care of people and they're cheaper, it's being proactive is where we reduce costs. Senator Sinema had an issue around basically the tax credit where you are able to roll the interest forward, and it benefited hedge fund operators, basically people who, in my opinion now, I'm not a doctoral economist, but they can pay a minimum tax. Mm-hmm. You got enough loopholes to not pay taxes, because we can't get the country going forward by putting it on the backs of a shrinking middle class.
Right.
We have to work together. So that was a lot of it. And, they worried about inflation, but they're using the old rules of how we get inflation.
Right.
They're not
exactly right.
They're not using, think about it, they're not using the fact that we jump-started an economy from zero.
Right.
There are going to be supply chain issues. But you take this bill, overlay it over the CHIPS Act, I would suggest communities to start looking at, hey, can we get a chip building factory? Because those jobs, those are prevailing wage jobs, because you have to know how to dress out in the clean room. You're going to learn more about the technology. So I think, but like I said, the holdup, a lot of it had to do with money and politics, and people with money were pushing to get what they want.
Yeah, and it seems to make a lot of sense, especially for national security, because if we become more efficient, particularly with building chips in this country, and less reliant on foreign fossil fuels coming from the Middle East, where we're fighting the last 20 years, we've been fighting wars in the Middle East. Why? Because of oil over there. And all the other conflict zones and hot zones around the country, a lot of that, even in Ukraine. We can go to Ukraine and look at that, what's going on there with natural gas. And now Germany and these countries trying to figure out what they're going to do for the winter. If we can get more smart and get smarter about this stuff and really take this stuff seriously, like you mentioned, people need to take the time and do some research and find out what's in these things and programs you can take advantage of for yourself, so you can save money for your household.
And on you nailed it, because we seem to only want to do this when there's a crisis. Well, we've had our crisis, so let's get busy, because in this bill, there's 9, because I'm going to run off a couple of things for people to look at. For the individual, $9 billion for consumer home energy rebates. So making energy efficient appliances, there's $9 billion in there. 10 years of tax credits for home efficiency projects. And then when you start talking about the whole energy sector, you just talked about those building clean technology manufacturing, not just chips. But what if we're manufacturing our own solar panels and batteries? There's $10 billion with a B, $10 billion investment tax credits for clean technology manufacturing facilities. So, I think the opportunities are there. What we have to do is dig in, because we have to connect with those entities that the money is going to flow through, put our plans together, because this is not going to be 100% of what you need to get these things done, but it can help get you over the hump. Mm-hmm. So it's time. It is absolutely time.
So we got 1 minute left. So just tell us, what is there one thing that you wish was in the bill that's not in it right now? About 30 seconds.
I would like me personally, I want, instead of using the normal governmental way of putting everything together and running it through the states and everything else, the federal government should have one-stop shopping to allow people to apply for funding to do low and moderate income communities, to change those communities to be energy efficient. That means that's everything. That's rooftop solar, battery storage, hydrogen fuel cell technology, charging stations, and allow people funding to buy electric bikes. It's really complicated to do this, and it doesn't need to be. We need one stop for it, and to make it happen on a faster scale. That's just, if I had to pick one thing, that's what I would like to see happen.
Rob Howard, U.S. Navy veteran and president, CEO of Zodiac Solutions. We didn't have Rod Matthew with us today, but he'll be back. This is America's Heroes Group. Great information. I appreciate your time, Rob.
Appreciate being here, and I'm watching it. And next time we'll have a more up-to-date report.
All right. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, the host of America's Heroes Group. If you or a loved one has been injured in an accident or the result of malpractice, you have only one chance to get the compensation you deserve. You need a law firm you can trust with experience and resources who will fight on your behalf. With a proven track record of excellence both in and out of the courtroom, call Seidman, Margulis, and Fairman at 312-781-1977 for a free consultation, or visit SeidmanLaw.net. That's Seidman, SEIDMAN, law.net.
Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelley and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618.
I'm Sally, a volunteer at United Way. I'm asking people around the neighborhood what they think this place needs. Excuse me, hi. What do you think this place needs?
I'd like to see more parking.
More playgrounds.
Free movies.
That's easy. Better restaurants.
And you, what do you think this place needs?
This place? Oh, more ice cream trucks.
Okay. How about you?
Wi-Fi everywhere?
I was thinking more money in the pockets of local families come tax time.
Can I change my answer?
I was just kidding about the ice cream.
Oh, that's way better.
Now that you mention it.
When it comes to getting better tax refunds into the hands of local families, what this place needs is you. To donate or volunteer, go to unitedway.org. Because great things happen when we live united. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
We're back. This is America's Heroes Group Roundtable Community Outreach. Today is Saturday, August 6, 2022. August is National Wellness Month. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have a significant and wonderful panelist today, Mr. Darren Jeffrey. He is a founding board member of the Rick Herrema Foundation and also the original course creator builder for the TV show American Ninja Warrior on NBC. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. So I want to learn more about the Rick Herrema Foundation and also the competition you have in Fayetteville, North Carolina, coming up near Fort Bragg.
Absolutely. So you prefaced on my bio, my background is the course creator for American Ninja Warrior right when it came to America. And I've also, for many years, I've been a civilian trainer for the special operations community, and I've had the opportunity to meet lots of wonderful families and folks along the way there. And about 8 years ago, we were doing a class on Maui. I was teaching a class in Maui with some guys, and we really hit it off. It was a really kind of almost a bromance, and within about a week, they had invited me back east to North Carolina, where I was able to meet with some of the families, taught a couple of classes. I'm an old rock climber, so that's kind of my background, doing the rock climbing thing and so on. And the kids went to bed. I was at one of the guys' house. His name is Josh. He's more about Josh later, but Josh invited me over to meet his wife and kids, and so I'm having dinner with them. The kids go to bed, and they roll out this map for 21 acres in Fayetteville, North Carolina, about 4 minutes away from the front gate of Fort Bragg. And they said to me, Darren, they've been moved, they've been touched to create some type of a nonprofit situation that could create resiliency in the families that deal with routine combat deployment stress. And I immediately said, absolutely, what can we do? And so we started really grinding away on what we could do with 21 acres, 4 minutes from from Fort Bragg. And so rolling the clock forward, that was about 8 years ago. I think we're about 8.5 years old, I believe. And Josh asked me to be a board member, and I said, well, and I have a business background. And I said, well, do you have federal? He said, we have our state approval. I said, do you have federal 501c3 approval? He said, no. I said, well, when you get that, call me, and then we'll pick up this conversation. Roll the clock forward. Josh deploys overseas. He's working, doing a lot of heavy lifting, and manages to get our federal approval within 4 months while on deployment.
Wow.
And normally that's an 18-month process to get that type of approval. So he pulls it off in 4 months, calls me while being deployed, says, hey, would you mind being on the board? And I became the first board member for the Rick Herrema Foundation. And so but we still didn't have a direction or a mission. And what we ultimately decided, roll the clock forward to what we are today. Now we're 55 acres. We're still right outside of Fort Bragg. We run programs, quality programs that are free for military families and veterans. Programs like gardening, horseback riding. We have tree houses. We have cooking classes. We do an arts class, Messy Monday, for the families. I bring the Ninja Warrior course out once a year, and the foundation, we host a giant Ninja Warrior competition right on the property, and just so on and on and on. We have bands out there. There's, families are using the property when for reintegration. When somebody comes home from deployment, instead of meeting at home, a lot of times they're meeting out at Rick's place. So we just have a park-like campus out there that's designed to, connect families and to create resiliency within those families.
You can tell us who Rick Herrema was. Who was Rick Herrema?
Sure. Josh. So Josh is, again, that name's going to keep coming up. Josh, him and Rick, they served together. They were in Ranger School together, and became best friends. And then they went off into their careers and ironically ended up back in a special forces team together, and ended up deploying together. And on a mission in 2006, Rick got shot. And Josh was the medic on scene, and it was a real hard day, real bad day at work for everybody, essentially. But that was, years later, that was Josh's best friend, and he was, very moved by, the event. And obviously, when we started talking about honoring his friend a few years later with a foundation, and the goal with Rick is that Rick would want families to not be stressed. Rick would want the families to feel connected, even though they're moving a lot or they may not have a lot of friends in the town that they're in. He would want to create a way for these families to unite with one another. And so that's essentially what the mission was that we scrubbed down, and we've carried forward.
So Rick's place is about 5 miles or so outside of, about 4 or 5 minutes outside of Fort Bragg. Is it multiple obstacle courses, or is it just one main obstacle course? How is it constructed?
Oh, I see. So the Ninja Warrior competition in particular. So what we do is I come out there, me and a team of folks that have been building television show Ninja Warrior, Beastmasters, Titan Games. A couple of my really close guys. We go out there and we actually construct the course. So we're going to start construction on it. It doesn't stay up year round. It's just it's an event that we bring to the foundation, or that the foundation brings to the community, essentially. And so we build it, and then we run a couple of weeks of competitions where units on base come out and compete. And we have some fun prizes, and so on.
Wow. How long does it take to build an obstacle course, and what makes a good obstacle course? And my favorite thing in the military, when I was going through the military, was obstacle course. That was like the day you got psyched for me. I loved obstacle courses. So
right.
So this saying obstacle course to me is like, that you got me at hello. So what goes into a good obstacle course?
So a good obstacle course is going to challenge the mind, not the body. Right off the bat, as the course creator for American Ninja Warrior for several years, we would design that course right in our warehouse, and then, we would adjust things, just tiny little adjustments to make them a little bit harder, or
or maybe a little more intimidating, and really trying to get into the psyche of the athlete. So a good obstacle course can get into your head, and it's not so much about your body.
Wow. I never thought about that.
One of the things that I noticed when we would do the finals in Las Vegas for the television show, we would have about 110 finalists that would all show up on night one, and they would all line up, and the big reveal, and here's our athletes, and let's see how they do against the course. And when you look at the bodies, they're all about the same, the physique. So this really is no longer a competition. The ninja competitions are no longer really about physique. It's more about mentality, mental strength, and confidence, essentially.
What's the craziest thing you ever put on an obstacle course?
Oh, well, we had some electrical cords. We've done a lot of prototypes that never made it on television. So a lot of our prototypes and the research and development stuff, we had obstacles that would start to shock you if you hung on too long.
Wow.
Or one of my favorites was the magnets, the electronic magnets. And so you're climbing these handholds, and if you're staying on them too long, boom, the handhold just starts falling off like a bad dream. You're just losing your handhold. So that was certainly very intimidating. But our thing too is that when we build these obstacle courses, they have to be safe, and so we have to really focus on perceived level of risk versus actual risk. And being able to design an obstacle or a series of obstacles that really appears, intimidating, but in reality is you can't get hurt on it, kind of thing. So it really is quite an art to be able to do that. It's been an honor.
So you started out fighting fires. You were a forest fighter, or firefighter in the forest over in California. That's a hard job.
Yes. Yeah. I did 10 years, all in the 90s. That's when I did most of my rock climbing. And that's when I fought a lot of forest fires throughout that decade with the Forest Service. Ended up on a hot shot crew, lots of helicopter work, seeing the big mountains blowing up, and hopeless days of work, and everything just kind of gets blown up the next day, and you work again all night. You see communities falling apart, but ironically too, it's like you see communities come together. It's really interesting to see how the human spirit rallies when those crises come together. It really gives you hope. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you think, oh man, people are crazy and blah blah blah, but when you see these types of events come together, the true nature of most people is to be helpful and friendly, and so you really see it in those types of crises.
Yeah, and also you see that a lot, I'm sure, in your obstacle courses when people come out and do these events, especially at Rick's place. Just having some time to just kind of catch your breath and kind of decompress and do something fun with your family, I think is a really, really important thing, and sometimes we just take that for granted. We get so busy in our schedules that we don't really take the time to go out and just see nature and do something challenging and do something that's not necessarily impossible but hard to do that's fun, with your mind and your body, like you're saying. So how long does it take to put when you put the contraptions up and your rigs up, how long does it take to do that?
So we're out there about a week and a half early. So like right now, we get out there end of August. We show up and we start building for about 10 days. But like right now, our fundraising committee is pedal to the metal right now with fundraising, because this is one of our biggest fundraisers for the foundation is the Ninja Warrior competition. So we have a really fun sponsorship package, and we offer a lot of interesting opportunities for our sponsors to get involved. And this is, as the course creator for American Ninja Warrior and the founder of the ATS team, which is the company responsible for all of that work, as the original founder for 20 years, this is an event that I don't do this other places. You can't touch my work somewhere else. It's if you want to touch Darren Jeffrey's obstacle course creations, it's at the Rick Herrema Foundation and on our Ninja Warrior course. And so, our sponsors really enjoy, having the opportunity to have a Ninja Warrior course that they can get behind.
So let me ask you this as well. So this is something I've always been curious about. So when you build these obstacle courses and say someone does get hurt, what happens? Like, what do you do?
Well, I mean, lots of fun jokes come to mind, like, well, that we always dig a few pits off to the side, and we got a couple bags of lime and a shovel ready to go. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. So we haven't had any injuries. We've never had anybody get hurt to the point where they had to, be taken away in an ambulance. We've never really experienced anything like that. And it's testament to the engineering that goes into these obstacles. Like, it's really easy to say, oh, well, we can make an obstacle, we can hang some rings, or we can hang some tubes or some pieces of chain. But when you look at the chain, you think, oh, someone's finger could get caught in that link, so maybe we better not use raw chain. And so we have to engineer clear tubing that goes over the chain, but so on television, it looks like it's chain, but it might not actually be, what you see, because, the safety is really in the details there. So we really haven't had any problems at all with safety, of course, knock on wood.
So how do we get in touch with you guys? Give us the information for your website so people across the country can come out. I mean, travel. It sounds like something you can do as a destination vacation. Well, it sounds like to me.
Yes. Yep. So you'll have to get on our website, is rhfnow.org, and you'll find the Ninja stuff, and you'll need to be either a retired military or active duty with your family, and you would be able to register to compete in the competition. We have a few open enrollment days, not too many. A lot of these end up going back to specific units. We keep the course up for about 2 weeks, and most of our blocks of time get dedicated right back to active duty units on Bragg, as team building with them, and then their families, that on the weekend. So get on our website. If you would like to sponsor this event or help sponsor the event, we're still actively looking for sponsors. We've been doing it now. This is our 5th year in a row. It's always successful. But we are at that time where we're looking for sponsors and donors to support the foundation. And then if you want to participate as a contestant, get on rhfnow.org, look at the Ninja, look for the Ninja page, and you'll be able to register, and we'll get you a time block. And then I'll meet you personally when you get out there. I'll see you.
Wow.
I'll be there.
That's cool. Get an autograph.
Yeah.
That's a celebrity, man.
Absolutely.
So would you ever put these on, or broadcast these, say, on Facebook or YouTube or something like that, some of these competitions?
So we've gone round and round with that, because there's a level of privacy that we try to bring to our property where people aren't on camera. A lot of these folks ought not be on camera, and so we've had a hard time, photographing and building our videos. We do have some fun videos, but we've got to get the backs of everybody's heads, basically. We have to respect the privacy of these families.
Yeah, I imagine with kids too as well. You probably have to be a little bit careful with that. Having kids. On
Absolutely.
The side,
so right, and so we're really we haven't done that kind of outward explosion that you would normally see a foundation do with social media and advertising because of that fact. We're really more, we can reach the families by reaching the units on base. And the unit commanders and the base commanders, they get to talk to those groups about RHF's opportunities. And so, our marketing is definitely a lot more, I don't want to say word of mouth, but I guess that's probably the closest thing to it.
Okay.
And we're also, we're in expansion mode here. We have plans to get out of North Carolina and to have other properties outside of other bases that have routine combat deployment. And, we'll find families there that I think, we all think could definitely benefit from having some acreage and a campus park-like setting that they could just come out to anytime. It's not associated with work, and anytime they're on the property, they see other families. They know those families are, you know, like kind families doing this, you know, dealing with the same types of things, you know. So
do you still mountain climb?
Really awesome.
Yeah.
Say again?
You still do mountain climbing?
I do. Yeah, I climb. I'm a canyoneering pioneer for the sport of canyoneering, and I do quite a bit of rock climbing still. You know.
So how much of that filters into your schemes when you build these rigs and stuff?
So, you know, most people who have watched Ninja Warrior on television, they'll all pretty much agree that the rock climbers typically, you know, get the furthest into the course. They tend to do the best. And back to that confidence that we were talking about, you know, you can take a normal athlete or, you know, take one version of an athlete that maybe, you know, plays ball, one of the ball-based sports. They're on a perfectly manicured court. You know, the lines are painted perfectly. Everything's regulation, and that's the sport. Mm-hmm. And the athleticism behind the sport is confined to the court, the precisely measured court. So a rock climber's court is kind of absolutely the opposite. There are no rules to the court. It is wit, it's courage, it's confidence, it's strength, it's athleticism, it's teamwork. It's a lot of the same buzzwords that you see in organized sports. And so when we see basketball players and hockey players and football players, when we see them try the ninja course, they don't do so well. And they could take a lesson from the ninjas, by the way, in human performance. When we see the climbers and the martial artists and the dancers get on the Ninja Warrior course, we see movement, we see confidence, we see success. And this is kind of that's kind of one of my fun rants about human performance. And, you know, you get the different genres of athletes or different athletes with, you know, different backgrounds that just don't do well on the ninja course.
So how would you say, like, military guys? I noticed one thing too, watching shows like that. When you watch reality TV shows, a lot of times people in the military would get on there, and I'm thinking, okay, these guys are gonna knock it out the park. And sometimes they underperform for some reason. I'm not sure if it's because of the MOS they had or whatever, you know. But I noticed that. How do military people perform on your obstacle courses compared to what they do every day in training?
Phenomenal, and it's funny because so the military, and I've researched this up one side and down the other, the military is the only profession on earth that uses an obstacle course at work.
Mm-hmm. I love
There's no other profession out there that's got a bunch of telephone poles sunk in the ground, you know, and a bunch of sand pits and pools of mud. You know, it doesn't exist. I've seen it all over the world.
And that was the most
fun. Ninja Warrior all over the world.
I miss it. I don't know if I can still do it today, but I miss it.
Of course not.
I miss it, man.
Right. So the ninja course for RHF to have the ninja course, you know, it's really a cool pairing of my background, and which I'm non-military, I'm a civilian, but I'm a trainer for the community, for climbing and so on. But as the Ninja Warrior guy coming in, it's like, wow, we are literally bringing the coolest obstacle course on planet Earth to the one group that really gets it. Like, obstacle courses are in the military culture, period. So what can we do to just blow that up? So the good news is RHF has the Ninja Warrior course, but we also have some upcoming programs that are in the pipeline where RHF can bring the Ninja Warrior course to other communities, to other locations where we can get the money worked out, create the fundraising element. We bring a turnkey Ninja Warrior event to your location. You know, and it's not a low key thing. It's a high profile. It's 10 days of building. It's tens of thousands of dollars to set up. It's an operation to run, but we've got all the pieces in the formula. So, you know, RHF Ninja Warrior is definitely in a position to come to Chicago and get out on the streets, and we can create a huge participant event. But we can also, that night, we can bring in top ninjas, and we can create a spectator event as well, like you would see on the show, but it would be live.
Wow.
So,
that'll be
and
really
all
cool.
of that, gets pointed towards the fundraising elements and the nonprofits that we all are working with.
I want to see a Ninja Warrior type RHF rig built in Bear Stadium, man. That would be cool. Soldier Field.
Perfect.
We got to do it. We got to work on that.
Easy to do.
We got to work on that, man. We got to start that.
Absolutely. You betcha. Yeah. In fact, now that we've said that, I think people are going to hear that and they're going to hold our feet to the fire. So let's get after it.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. So what's the coolest thing that you've seen? Like, as far I know, this is personal to you. It's something that you really care about. For you, from a personal standpoint, how has your life changed doing this type of thing, this type of work for people, particularly service members and veterans?
I mean, this is such a broad, wow. I don't have a family. My career, doing what I did, my career moved very quickly. I didn't get a chance to, have that experience. I've never been enlisted. The closest is, being on the hotshot crew and deploying and dealing with that kind of routine deployment. Getting to meet these teams and getting to meet their families. These are a lot of these are our tier 1 teams, and it's been an honor to just meet guys and gals who've got just so much talent, just unbelievable amounts of talent, and getting to call them friends. That's everything else becomes a memory. You go out and you do something. I've done so many crazy shows all over the world and stunts and world records, but it's the friends that you make along the way that you get to come back to time after time after time after time. My fiance and I are getting married October 8th this year here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we've been sending out the invitation list, and it's just been a blast through memory lane, looking at all the people that I've gotten to invite that are people that I met along the way.
Wow. Congratulations.
And that, to me, that's probably the best answer I could give you.
That sounds phenomenal. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
So what's your advice to people that want to start a big project? It seemed like you've been on a whirlwind, career, starting from, fighting fires, and then you started a company, and then you sold a company, and then now you have this foundation you're working with and things like that. What's your advice for people that want to be where you're at? If they want to start something that's profound, they have an idea, maybe don't know how to develop it, what would you say?
The best piece of advice that was given to me early on was Darren Jeffrey is the only one that's ever limited Darren Jeffrey.
So don't get out with your own self.
I would say look at yourself in the mirror and say your first and last name and say that you're the only one that's ever limited you.
Wow.
And then get after it. Keep the faith, stay the course, get after it. If you're discouraged, that's you being discouraged. That's you getting in your own way. Get after it.
Wow.
I'm a high school dropout. I quit. I left home at 15. I had beautiful parents. I love my mom will actually be at the wedding. They're beautiful people. But I just needed to get after it. There was too much adventure sitting around every stinking corner in life that it just had to happen. I left the Forest Service and started a rock climbing school in 1999, and that turned into a Hollywood rigging company, which is known today as ATS, or the ATS team. I sold that 3 years ago to my partner, who tragically passed away of leukemia about 2 months later. God love him. I miss the guy, but the company roars on, and these are old friends of mine and that were employees that are now carrying the torch forward. So, build relationships, be the kind of person you want to meet, and know that if you're discouraged, it's only you who are discouraged. Get out of your own way and get after it.
I like that, man. I like that a lot. Get after it. We're going to get after this new rigging gig. We have put one together in, like I said, in Bear Stadium. Let's get it in Soldier Field. We got to do it. Let's get it done.
Easy to do.
Let's get it done.
Let's talk to the governor. We'll talk to the Board of Tourism. Let's talk to the governor. We'll staple a couple of good causes to the event. We'll get the Board of Tourism involved. We'll get heads in beds, and we'll put on one heck of an event.
And welcome to America's Heroes Group, Darren, panelist, and also a great and wonderful guy we just talked to, Darren Jeffrey, founding board member of RHF, and also the original course creator builder for the TV show American Ninja Warrior on NBC. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.
Payback Law is proud to sponsor.
We have in our chase bags, we have a care package of hygiene, we have shaving equipment, we have razors, and for the women we have the same personal hygiene items for them as well. And we want to say thank you for their service. This is Chase Bank. Thank you very much.
People in the neighborhood, free haircuts, service, and food. Look good. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Okay. On behalf of Cliff Kelley, America's Heroes Group, we sincerely thank Chase Bank for coming where it matters to help homeless veterans
Group. In this segment, I like to call this We Are Globally Connected, Military Family Matters, with our partner and family caregiver, Keisha L. Jackson. Today is Saturday, August 6, 2022. August is National Wellness Month. You just heard our host during the break, Cliff Kelley. I'm the co-host, Sean Claiborne, Army National Guard veteran. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And Keisha, how you doing?
How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. You are a U.S. Air Force veteran and family caregiver, and you got some interesting stuff to talk about. You brought up us a panelist today, Tracy L. Lamb. She's the CEO and founder of Smart Caregiving. And we want to know, what is Smart Caregiving? How does it make caregiving easier? What is that all about?
Yeah, before Tracy gets started, on my bio, it talks about when I was caring for my mom, and not even in my bio, but I always add on to that. After I was caring for my mom, I was caring for my brother who fell and was placed on life support. And in the process of that, I started going to different conferences and learning about a lot of resources that are out there, but people didn't know about those different resources. And so most recently, I've been able to connect with Tracy, and I almost felt like in some aspects I was talking to myself, with someone with a passion for ensuring that caregivers know that there are resources out there. And so Tracy, she's just a wealth of knowledge. So I'll turn it over to her and let her take it from here, and just share about those various resources in terms of smart caregiving.
Thanks. Appreciate that, Keisha. So, Tracy, what can you tell us about some of these resources? And first, are these mainly resources available to veterans, or are they resources that are all over the place, for anybody that can use?
Well, thank you so much, Cliff and Keisha, for the introduction and for allowing me to be on the show. I greatly appreciate it. Smart Caregiving is a product of me working in the hospice for 15 years and finding a gap in the industry, kind of like Keisha did when she took care of her mom, and that people who take care of moms and dads, special needs children, all over the world, really, there really wasn't a place for them to be able to call and get resources like Keisha had stated, and actually even talk to a person and say, this is what's going on with my mom or my dad or my special needs child, and I really just want somebody to talk to and find out, what they could do to help me. So that's kind of how Smart Caregiving was born. We actually help all people, veterans alike, veterans and non-veterans alike. My dad and granddad were both veterans. They both were Army. And served so the military has a very special place in my heart, and veterans do as well. But we actually have a global directory of companies that offer products and services to anybody, and they can call in with their questions, or they can email their questions, and they can do that as often as they like, and it's completely free.
Oh, you still there? Looks like we lost her, Tracy.
I am still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just dropped out for a brief second.
Okay.
So these are resources that are free for a lot of people, or most people?
They are free to all people. They are free to everybody. Anybody who calls in, they can call in as many times as they want. They can email in as many times as they want. I am a caregiver. I took care of my father up until he passed away in February. And I took care of my mom. I still take care of my mom. So, yes, they are completely free to the caregiver and always will be.
Wow. And how do we connect with you? How do we find that information?
Sure. My website is smart-caregiving.com. That's the website, and it has my phone toll-free number on top, and there's an email address as well. If they want my toll-free number, that they can call as well. Our toll-free number is 888-462-4817.
Wow. So what are some of the resources that are available? What's the most popular, maybe?
Sure. Well, one of the resources that I really love, and it actually is available to really only for active vets. There's a company called Tactical Rehab. And their website, just so that you know, you come to my website, you'll see a link to their website as well. But their website is tacticalrehabdme.com. They've been around for quite some time, since I believe 2014, and they are global. They have a product that I absolutely love that they actually created for vets. It actually is an orthotic for your feet, and they actually come to people's homes. They make a mold of your feet, and so these are made especially for you, and so it allows you to be able to put these in any soles of shoes, any shoes that you have, and they are just, it helps with back pain, it helps with knee pain, it helps with hip pain. I mean, they're just absolutely wonderful. So tactical rehab is just one of the many resources. One of the other resources.
Wow. I need that for myself. I need to call these guys tactical resources.
Tactical rehab.
Tactical rehab. Okay, so I need to call these guys up and get some molds in my feet. Now, this is free or is it under? Do you have to be under the VA system in order to use their services, or how does this work?
They take. I know they take TRICARE, and they take all VA insurances. And I know they work with all active military. So, yeah, just call them directly. Tactical Rehab DME is their website, tacticalrehabdme.com. And just tell them that Smart Caregiving referred you. So that way they'll know that to give you a discount because you're calling through Smart Caregiving. And but they will come to your home. And they actually, these are much better than Dr. Scholl's.
I like that. So what else is like really popular? What do people usually do?
Sure. One of the other products that we have that's really, really popular that helps tremendously, you know, there's a lot of people that have problems with bed sores. I know before my father passed away, he sat all the time and he got bed sores a lot. And there's a lady, she has a company called Jewel Nursing Solutions. The great thing is this product is actually on Amazon. And she has patented a bed sore pillow. And she is a former trauma nurse, and she realized that bed sores were a huge problem, and so she has an actual patented bed sore pillow that actually helps tremendously with bed sores. And you can actually find that on Amazon as well.
Wow. So I like this idea of taking all of these different people that have these different products and services and putting them in one place. That's probably the most frustrating thing when you're trying to get help for something. Particularly something as complicated and as widespread as caregiving, because you have all types of income levels where people might not have the resources that they think they wish they had to get caregiving services, or maybe they're doing it themselves for a parent or for a spouse or something like that. How challenging is it to pull all this together and get all these different people and find all of these different resources?
Well, I love what I do, and I'm actually very blessed. I've actually had a lot of companies actually come to me, and, you know, the great thing is that kind of what you said is you hit the nail on the head. We basically are a one-stop shop for caregivers. So they basically call in and they tell us, okay, this is what's going on with my mom or my dad, or this is what's going on with my special needs child, and these are the challenges that I'm having. And we basically connect them with all different kinds of companies and resources that help them. And so it basically makes it to where they feel like they are now a part of a community. They no longer have to feel alone. We basically bridge the gap for them and make it to where they can go ahead and feel like, okay, now I have somebody I can call and talk to when I feel, you know, stuck, or I don't know what to do, or I need help and I don't know where to get it. They now have a place to call.
Now, one thing
Sean,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sean, I wanted to mention that one of the things that I really appreciated about Smart Caregiving is that I guess, and Tracy could talk more, but say if you call them and if they don't have that answer, they're going to follow back up with you, I believe, in like 24 or 48 hours. And that is so crucial to be able to have someone to follow through, because a lot of times, you know, you just placed on a hold for indefinitely and to the point where you get frustrated or you just hang up. But to have someone that's willing to say, you know what, we're going to call you back, we're going to get the answer and follow back up with you, I think that's tremendous.
That is tremendous. And I think that's really important. Someone in that situation, that feedback is so critical. One of the things I think a lot of small businesses and large businesses even fall short on is they don't give the customer feedback when they run into a brick wall or something that's not working, because there's going to be hiccups and things that might not work the way you want it to. But if you have that feedback, it makes the person, particularly going through a hard situation, feel so much better. And so it's good to hear that you guys have that built into your organization.
Absolutely. You know, to me, one of the core values that they instructed us with hospice was customer service. And I worked with them for 15 years. And, you know, that's the key value that I'm putting with my company is that, you know, we want people to know that they are valued and that every problem is important. And we want them to know, you know, hey, if you call us and you've got a question and we don't have the answer, we absolutely will get back to you in the next 24 to 48 hours because we're going to dig in and we're going to find the solution for you. So you don't have to sit there and try and Google or YouTube or figure it all out and spend precious time that you do not have, because I know I am a caregiver too. And when you are in the midst of caregiving, you do not have a lot of time. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're juggling a job and kids and caregiving and all of the same things, you know, you don't have time to look all these things up, you know, and you can't Google, unfortunately, what you don't know about. Right. And there's a lot of fantastic companies out there.
And another thing is, too, so when you look at a lot of these websites like Google and others, like vendors, online vendors, you don't know if you're getting a quality product, which is a big thing. Because you could be getting something that's, you know, made, and it says it's made in America. It could be made somewhere else. They could be using shoddy materials. It may not work. You might have, for something that's in the caregiving field, it could be something that could be dangerous.
Yeah, and Sean, you know, along with that, you can also be getting scammed. And so that's why it's so important to know who you're connecting with. You know, they prey on people online looking for help, especially if they feel like it's a senior person. Just getting, you know, say, hey, we have this product. It's a phenomenal product. They get your credit card information or something. And so you definitely have to be careful in that area as well.
Wow, that's good. That's good advice, and that's so important, so true. That's so true.
And that is very true. And I actually do. I personally vet every company that comes onto my directory. I personally talk to every CEO. I personally talk to every single company. I meet each company because I do feel it's important. And I have turned companies away. If I don't feel like they're going to be able to treat my caregivers the way that I would treat my caregivers, the way that I treat my mom, then I'm not going to have them on my directory, because it's important to me that they be treated the way they deserve to be treated, because they're already in a rough spot. And they're already dealing with a lot on their plate. So to me, it's very, very important that they be quality companies.
Now, I saw on some of the information you had that you actually help caregivers who are trying to start a business in the caregiving industry or trying to provide a product or service to get started, starting a small business. Is that accurate?
Well, what we're doing is anybody, if there's any businesses out there listening, that anybody that has a business, we're kind of doing it on twofold. If you have a business that offers a product or a service for caregivers that you would like to actually have more people know about, that we could help you grow your business, then please contact me. I would love to talk to you. I would love to help you grow your business. We are now a referring company for the federal government, so we're now actually listed on the federal government's website down in Florida, and we're going to be going nationwide with that over the coming months. But I would love to be able to help you grow your business and be able to help you to get more people to know that you exist. That's the problem with a lot of small businesses, and I know I've been a small business owner too, is that people just don't know they exist. And so we would love to be able to help you with that. And even if you have a company that doesn't necessarily cater to caregivers, but you want to support our mission and you would like to be able to get word out, we are starting to network with other companies, and we're starting to do 2 global events next year where we're going to actually have 350 companies worldwide at one event and 1,200 at another event.
Wow.
And so if you want to be able to network with some companies worldwide to really be able to get the word out there about your company, then please contact me. I would love, love, love to help you grow your business.
Wow. So how hard is it to get money or get financial services or financial help when you're going through a caregiver, when you need a caregiver or need someone to take care of you? How hard is it to pay for this stuff?
Well, you know, the problem is, and that's one reason why there's a company out there I like to refer to people, a lot of people to. There's a company, and they are nationwide, called elderhelpers.org. One of the biggest problems for people is that they need help, and a lot of these caregivers that you have to, quote, hire, unfortunately, whether they're independent and do it on their own or whether they come through an agency, it can cost anywhere from $20 to $25 an hour, which is crazy money. And most people don't have that. Most caregivers don't have that. And so elderhelpers.org actually has vetted, background screened volunteers. All you have to do is go to their website, plug in your zip code, and it will actually bring up a list of vetted, background screened volunteers that will come to your home and stay with the patient. Now, they can't stay 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. But if you need somebody to come over for a couple hours while you go to the grocery store, you need somebody to come over for an hour or two while you go do some errands or whatever, then they can do that. And to me, that's a huge, huge help, just because it's completely free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Now, do caregivers, I guess I know there's different levels of care. There's skilled care and things like that. Are there any requirements or licenses or accreditations required for people that want to become caregivers? Say you want to just say your person's unemployed, you see somebody that might need a caregiver, you want to see if you can get paid to do it. Do they have to get any kind of training first or get any kind of licenses first?
They do not. And there are, if they Google, there are certain places that you can actually become a caregiver. There's a guy I know, his name is Mike Michelle. He has called a Care Trainer app that if you go into your app store, you should be able to download it. It's called the Care Trainer app. And he actually trains you how to be a caregiver. Wow. And it's very, very good. It's very good. Mike has been a caregiver himself multiple times over. He's a great guy. He is on my directory. He's a phenomenal guy. But the Care Trainer app is awesome. It can definitely help you get really key antidotes that you need for being able to be a better caregiver.
And what advice would you give? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, Sean, let me just add on to that. I think it's so important that if you get the opportunity to get any type of caregiver training, guidance, mentorship before you become a caregiver, because often, I've said it and others, you wind up kind of falling into that role of becoming a caregiver. So you become a pharmacist, a chaplain, a chaperone, a counselor, a chef. And you're learning as you go along, and it's very unsettling, and it's it could be very uneasy and make you very nervous because you feel like you're practicing on a patient, which is not good. So that's one of the reasons why bringing these different individuals to the show and talking about these topics and talking about these resources is to try to get people to become knowledgeable of particular situations or experiences or training that's out there or resources. So if that day would come, which is a possibility that it could, you're more at ease with moving into that role.
What are some of the biggest mistakes? That was really the question I wanted to ask last. But what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're stepping into the caregiver role for the first time?
Well, Keisha makes a very, very good point. The reality is that a lot of people don't want to deal with sickness or anything else that has to do with any of the whole process until, they're kind of thrust into the role. And the reality is that as far as I'm sorry, what was the question that you asked? My whole train of thought.
No problem. So what are some of the biggest mistakes? Like if there is one thing that people do wrong that they shouldn't be doing that you see all the time, especially as a first-time caregiver, what would that be?
Yes. Okay. And honestly, I would tell anybody this because I have two living proof examples of why you don't do it. Honestly, I would honestly say that the two biggest things is get what's called advance directives, a living will, a healthcare surrogate, a power of attorney. And I have ways on my website of ways you can actually get those things done. You can get legal representation for as little as $24 a month. So you don't have to pay a $400 an hour attorney to do all that stuff. So I have all kinds of valuable information that can help you with doing this stuff at a very, very low cost. But it is so important to have advance directives, and I know nobody likes to talk about that. It's kind of like the misnomer, but I will give you two examples. My older sister had a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old and was killed in a car accident, and she had no power of attorney, and she ended up, and her two kids ended up going to a man that was not a good man, who was their legal father, and it was all because there was no POA. And my younger brother was an alcoholic, and I tried for years to get him to do a healthcare surrogate, and he refused. And he ended up having a surgery, and he was already dying from alcoholism and from cirrhosis, and he ended up on a ventilator. And if anybody's ever had a loved one on a ventilator, it is horrible to watch. It is horrible, horrible, horrible to watch. And it's horrible on the family because the family has to watch their loved one, and then the family has to decide when that ventilator has to be turned off. And so my poor parents had to decide when to turn the ventilator off. And it was all because my brother did not have a living will. And you never want to put your family through that. You know, if you love your loved one, do not put your family through that. So even though you don't want to deal with that, that's one of the first things you really, really need to address, because those are so very, very important.
I really appreciate you. I'm sorry, go ahead. One last, we've got about 10 seconds left.
I was going to say real quickly, the other thing I would just say is find a place where you can get resources, whether it's with people like Keisha, because Keisha is amazing with what she does. And I think I give her huge kudos for what she's doing, because it's so fantastic and it's so completely needed. And utilize every resource you have. You know, I know Keisha and I have shared our stories with each other. You know, we both have utilized a lot of different resources, you know, and that's the thing. Utilize smart caregiving, utilize listening to Keisha, utilize every resource that you can find, because you're going to need it. You're going to need it.
Really appreciate your time, Tracy, Keisha. Tracy Lamb is the CEO and founder of Smart Caregiving. Check out her website, get the resources. It's all free. Keisha L. Jackson, Air Force veteran, family caregiver. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sean.
This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran and host of America's Heroes Group, the game changer in radio, print, and digital media programming. We are a roundtable talk show where information, resources, and referrals are provided intentionally every Saturday to empower our military population on WVON 1690 AM, the iHeart Radio app from 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please visit our website at www.americashg.org. Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, the host of America's Heroes Group. If you or a loved one has been injured in an accident or the result of malpractice, you have only one chance to get the compensation you deserve. You need a law firm you can trust with experience and resources who will fight on your behalf. With a proven track record of excellence both in and out of the courtroom, call Seidman, Margulis, and Fairman at 312-781-1977 for a free consultation, or visit SeidmanLaw.net. That's Seidman, SEIDMAN, law.net.
Hey, everyone. Let's all stop what we're doing right now and take a moment. That felt good, huh? Just like that, we had a nice special sort of moment together. Of course, they don't all need to be quiet moments to be special. They could be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count. Because every time dads like us take a moment like that to spend with our kids, well, it's pretty momentous. Sounds like somebody agrees. So let's take a moment to make a moment. Today, call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelley and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group, our Roundtable Mental Health Matters with our partner NAMI, Contra Costa. Today is Saturday, August 6, 2022. August is National Wellness Month. You just heard our host, Cliff Kelley, during the break. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have our partner on the line, Gigi Crowder. She's the executive director of NAMI Contra Costa in California. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, an advocacy group founded by family members of people with mental illness. So we're going to talk about the new implementation of 988, the hotline that is there to help people who need mental health support, that need to talk to somebody. You can call 988 now to be able to get some kind of person on the phone who can talk to you about any mental health crisis as you're going through. How you doing, Gigi?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good.
Wonderful.
So what can you tell us about how this is being rolled out? So July 16th, things went live, from what I understand. So what's going on with 988, and how is it helping people across the country?
Well, basically this is replacing the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which was 10 digits and pretty difficult for individuals to remember. So now when a person dials 988, it will take them directly to crisis counselors. And it's kind of rolling out differently across the nation, depending on the contracts the state or the municipalities have with the 988 vendors. But it's wonderful to have a suicide prevention and mental health crisis counselors available to talk to people when they're in that place where they need support.
So is the old hotline defunct now, or is it routing the calls to 988? So if you call the old number, what happens?
It would route the numbers to 988. You can either speak live or you can use that number for text messaging as well.
And that's the thing I think is really cool. And I'm not sure if that happened on the old number, but being able to text somebody if you're having a crisis or want to talk to someone, you can actually do a text as opposed to talking to them.
Yeah, the chat lines and the text messaging are really available for individuals that don't necessarily want to expose themselves as easily, and they might just be a little bit more, timid about live voice. Often when individuals use the chat lines, the trained counselors will ask them once there's been a level of comfort reached if they would like to talk one-on-one, because sometimes it's not as intimate when it's a text. But younger generations prefer texting over live calls, so it's great to have both options available.
And do you know how it's been received so far? How has 988 been launched? Was it launch smooth? Was there challenges?
Well, so far, I was on a national call about it, and the number has generated a lot of attention. Most news media have picked it up, and it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. For ease, law enforcement officers are now able to offer that to individuals as well. Instead of being the first responders, they can now say, it sounds like you would benefit from calling this number. It's so much easier than the 10-digit number. And then we're finding, because of COVID, that many people just want a place to talk. So it's been received well, and there has been an increase in activity on that line now that it's easier to remember.
And I think that's so important. People are calling this a game changer as far as how having this hotline. I'm not sure if other countries around the world do things similar to this, but they say it's a game changer in that it can really reduce a lot of the violent crime and things, and a lot of the police shootings. There's something like 20%. It was Benjamin Miller had done a study. He's a psychologist. He was on NPR, and he did a study, and he created a foundation called Wellbeing Trust, and he reported that 20% of police officers or the police are responding to their police calls. 20% of it is because of mental health issues. It's not even something like violent or somebody's breaking in. It's a mental health issue that could be solved by a counselor.
Right, and that's regional as well. So in some jurisdictions, it's even higher. I know when we did recent work in the county I reside in, it was 33% of the phone calls for through 911 were for a potential 5150, meaning that the person calling assumed it was going to be a mental health crisis, and it's such. It's also not a great way to manage resources when you need law enforcement for other activities, because when they were showing up, only about 35% of the time did it warrant a 5150, meaning the person was a danger to themselves, others, or gravely disabled. So this allows for someone to do a little bit more triage, and because they're trained professionals, it will give individuals an opportunity to make a better assessment of what the true need is.
And they're talking about 25% of police shootings have to do with or centered around mental health issues and people that could have been helped,
Yeah, and so you may be familiar, and how I get introduced to your program was in California. We're still waiting for the governor to sign Assembly Bill 988, which is also called the Miles Hall Lifeline and Suicide Prevention Act. And that would be a replacement of law enforcement response. So that's a non-police response that we hope will be, around the clock, and it would include mobile crisis teams, staffed by trained mental health professional, peers, that means people who live with mental illness, and family members. And then we would only call on law enforcement if it warrants such high-level support.
So when a person calls 988, what can they expect, especially when it comes to privacy and things like that? So a person may be on the fence. Maybe they just don't. And I think also, too, a lot of people they don't want to admit that they have a mental health issue.
Exactly. And they may not, because not everyone who's in crisis have a long-term, diagnosed mental illness. A lot of individuals is situational, loss of job, maybe a death, and they have this feelings of hopelessness. It doesn't mean that they have a diagnosis of a mental illness, but when they are able to talk it through with someone, that's really important, instead of using an approach where you only have to call law enforcement when you're in crisis like that. To have a counselor be readily available is what we were all hoping for. And so once a person calls that number, the local jurisdiction that picks up the number will take the call, and then if they feel like the person needs a mobile crisis response team, someone to come out from their behavioral health department, then they'll have that person talk to someone there, or they'll refer it to a NAMI and say, sounds like this individual doesn't have an immediate need for support. They're not currently experiencing, so they might just need some resources.
So when you encounter or get the call, how do you respond to people with mental health issues when you're involved? What do you do to help them?
Well, one of the first things is just kind of go through how they're feeling right now. Sometimes it's because an individual is starting to feel some of the symptoms of their illness. They may live with schizophrenia, and they're starting to get some of the symptoms of being paranoid. And sometimes it's as easy as suggesting they go get their medication filled, because it will alleviate some of the symptoms. Sometimes we do need to tell them that they need to, go into the emergency room. And we are so focused on involuntary commitments, but there's also individuals who can voluntarily go into the psych emergency services when they're in distress. It doesn't happen often that a person recognizes when they need that, but when they do, we support them to get there. We might ask them if there anyone in their family or a friend that we could talk to help them with getting there. But mostly we're giving out resources and suggesting tools that the individuals could use to de-escalate any situation they may be in.
One thing I appreciate is I'm starting to see, like on social media, but also in just regular like primetime television commercials even. I mean, you have athletes stepping out, professional athletes, like Simone Biles, for example, the gymnast. You had the swimmer, Michael Phelps, who actually came out and said, I actually get counseling because of what's going on in my head. people speaking up and saying, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. It's okay to talk about it, and encouraging people to get counseling, get real professional help to try to solve some of these issues that might be going on in their mind. And just like any part of your body, like if you have a sore muscle in your arm, or if you have a sore leg, you go to see somebody, get treatment. We have to do the same thing, and also really understand and learn about mental health, because health is not just in your body, but also in your mind.
Exactly. It has really benefited individuals for, well-known figures to help people understand that it's a medical condition and that it could impact anyone. Has nothing to do with intelligence or weak character. It's all about what's happening in the individual's brain. And so reducing the stigma by educating people about what mental is, but and just as important, what it's not, has really helped us get more conversations about mental health and wellness and what a person might need to have in place to be able to live a better quality of life despite living with a diagnosed mental illness.
And one of the things also that seems to be coming up more and more in our lexicon and our language about mental health is PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Exactly.
So that being said, how do people recognize, because it seems like we're getting to the point where we're realizing that it's more widespread than what we give it credit for at the beginning. Like, it's not just a military thing, it's actually a civilian thing as well. People that live in violent neighborhoods are being diagnosed this way. How do we recognize that in our culture, and what are some of the signs and symptoms that you want to advise people if they're starting to feel a certain way or behave a certain way, that they may need to talk to somebody about it?
Well, recently because of COVID, I think if we're being honest, all of us are living with a level of PTSD. We went through a really traumatic time where we were not certain about what our future was going to look like. And so that put us in a place of, especially during the sheltering in place periods, that put us in a place of depression and anxiety. And so some people have better coping skills than others, so they've been able to pull themselves out of it. Many people that I speak to, and even these are close friends that don't have a diagnosis of a mental illness, are pretty honest about the fact that they're still not so much worried about death because of COVID, but worried about other things that are secondary to the physical parts. And so we have people who are not as conscientious about their weight, they're eating more than they would, they're not sleeping well, they're spending more money than they should. So some of the symptoms that you see with PTSD are now more prevalent for everyday citizens who are trying to readjust because some of the protective factors that they had in place, some of the routines have been disrupted, and finding their way back to what they defined as normal for them has been difficult for a lot of individuals because of that period of time when they were, not certain about their future. And so that's pretty common that we now understand that it's not just military vets, but it's also individuals who have been exposed to violence, not even necessarily that the act took place, but the threat of violence. So COVID has given us an opportunity to just talk more about PTSD and how it presents for individuals.
So what are some strategies that people can use every day? So people that live in stressful situations, people that or maybe they had a life-changing event that might pose a risk to mental health. What are some things you can do, like maybe exercise or meditation? What types of things can we get into our routine every day to improve our mental health?
Well, we have embraced in the last couple of decades mindfulness practices. It's individualized for each individual, but we know that some people talking with others who they feel like they can trust is really important. We, as a community of individuals, probably don't breathe enough intentionally, and we don't breathe deep enough. So we tend to stay in the fight or flight parts of breathing, and we need to really be intentional about going deeper with deeper breaths so that we can, get the chemicals in our bodies flowing and be in a more calm space. Some people benefit from walk, some people from yoga, some people from prayer, some people from meditation. It's all individualized. What we don't want to do is self-medicate, and we're seeing a lot of that taking place. And sadly, a lot more veterans. We work closely at NAMI Contra Costa County with the Veteran Center, and they've reported individuals who have been clean and sober for a long period of time have had some relapse because of the uncertainty and the kind of enhanced symptoms of managing PTSD that they may have had before.
So now you touched on my next question, which was my curiosity is that we had a couple of high-profile things happen in the media where we have an athlete in Russia who's had some cannabis or cannabis oil or in her possession, and now she's going to get 9 years in prison. So when we talk about self-medication, is there an abuse? Have you ever seen an abuse of marijuana or CBD or any of these types of cannabis-based medicines and treatments? Is that something that could be abused, or is that something that is helpful?
Most definitely. It is widely documented for individuals who live with mental illness already and the brain developing. If you're under the age of 30, you likely are not going to get positive outcomes from smoking marijuana. So anyone who smokes marijuana and think it's medicinal, not for a brain that has already been impacted and could have some mental illness, is only going to exacerbate. So what we're seeing in psych emergency services all over the country is young people showing up with what we call drug-induced psychosis, and it's usually from the THC.
Wow.
It's not, I guess, the same marijuana that people used to use back in the 60s and 70s. You don't know what's in it. There's also fentanyl, a crisis around overdosing there. And so a lot of young people, sadly, have lost their lives through taking what they thought was just marijuana, and it's been laced with something. And it's been horrible, actually, the death toll of young and some older individuals who have overdosed has really risen in the last 2 to 3 years. It was on the rise, and then COVID actually caused a suicidal ideation in individuals, and so we're deeming it as an accidental overdose. But kind of like if you're taking something you shouldn't be taking, then you got to, they don't necessarily leave a note, but when their autopsy takes place, fentanyl and some other deadly chemicals are found in their body.
Wow, so it means like it's really important to really see a doctor before you start putting stuff in your body. Just make sure you get, as a pharmacist or a prescription for what you're trying to do to help yourself feel better. Don't start taking stuff on your own, because then, I had no idea that people can go in psychosis before taking, weed, or for, in certain cases. If
a lot of individuals don't know they live with mental illness also, and so they self-medicate with alcohol, marijuana, pills, not knowing that it's causing more damage because their brains are already kind of compromised by the illness. And then you take this other substance and you're wondering how come, you're not feeling any better and your symptoms are more pronounced at that point. So we really have to do better messaging around that, especially for individuals under the age 30. Those of us in the field have always known that, but we have not done the best job of letting, individuals, in the broader community know. If you're under 30, you probably should not be smoking pot if you have been diagnosed with a mental illness.
Wow, that's good information. So what do you like to see happen next? So 988 it seems like I said, it seems like a groundbreaking thing, a game changer in mental health. What's the next thing we could be doing in the industry?
Well, 988 is a place for you to talk to someone if you're having a difficult time. We in California are pushing for AB 988, which would mandate that if a person calls that number and they're having a mental health emergency, they would get a non-police response. As you quoted, law enforcement is spending a lot of time responding to 5150 calls and they're not the best suited individuals to actually determine the next course of treatment. So if we can get non-police response across the nation and have an opportunity for us to produce better outcomes, I mean, sadly, 25% of all officer-involved shootings are from individuals who live with a mental illness. So if we take police officers out of the equation of response and only use them when it's indicated we need them, when there's imminent danger, the person has a firearm or some kind of deadly weapon, yeah, we'll probably always need law enforcement. But for right now, if we can get a non-police response for those in mental health emergencies, that would be the natural next step for 988 across the nation.
And how close do you see yourself, or do you see California getting to that point to get that passed?
Well, we went, and I happened to be one of the individuals who had an opportunity to testify in front of the Senate. And so the Senate passed it through. It goes back to the Assembly. There were some changes that the behavioral health care directors for the state of California wanted to change, more around power and who gets to do what. But if we get it signed, and we're hoping to get it signed before September, which is Suicide Prevention Month, then we'll be in a good place. Each of the counties will have an opportunity to decide how they want to fund it and how they prioritize their fundings. In Contra Costa County, they've gotten $20 million to start hiring and positioning themselves to be better positioned to have a program they're calling the Anyone, Anyplace, Anytime. So the A3 program and the Miles Hall crisis line. So a person will call 988. That would be the crisis line. They'd have an opportunity to get a family member, if that was the level that they needed, a peer, meaning someone with mental illness, or a counselor, a trained licensed clinical social worker. And then in one of the approaches is to go straight to the EMT, because ultimately when a person is 5150, it's an ambulance that takes them to the hospital setting. So sometimes you can cut out the police and just go straight to the social worker working with the EMT workers.
My last question is, because you mentioned this, and I want to get clarification as to what this means. I think people have different definitions of mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
What is mindfulness?
In a simple definition, is staying in the present, using the tools you need to be presently centered. So exercises that allow you to do that. So some of it might include breathing for some individuals. Some of it may include meditation, but just being mindful of today and not looking toward the past or the future.
That sounds like it might be really healthy to do.
Yeah, I think most of us would benefit
It's probably
from that.
most of our anxiety comes from either something happened in the past or we're worried about the future, basically, for most of it.
Yes.
So that's a good definition. I like it. So what else do you need to tell us about 988? What else can we look forward to with this? And then you see it seems like it's a big success right now as it's being rolled out, or it has after its launch, which was July 16th. So what do we need to know?
I think it's really important if you have someone who you know that struggles with mental health, or a family that's often only calling 911, that now they have another option. And with 988 in most jurisdictions, they do provide individuals with additional resources so that when they hang up the phone, you're not out there alone scrambling. I think 988 is, for us at NAMI, it's how a lot of new family members who are struggling with how to support their loved one who's living with mental illness are now finding out about the great resources that we have available, our educational courses, our advocacy when they need support if they have a loved one in the system, for those who are incarcerated. I think it's going to save lives, and it's going to aid us in not criminalizing mental illness.
I think that's so important. I mean, and like I said, we have a lot of hope and a lot of promise in this new hotline that's come out. 988, I think will be a game changer, and I agree with everything you've mentioned. We need to get more on top of this, and if you have anybody out there listening that need some help, need to really start to communicate their problems, things that they're thinking about, whether it's something that happened to them, what experience they've been through, call 988, get help, reach out to NAMI, Contra Costa, or any place that you can get some counseling. Gigi Crowder, we appreciate you and your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Sean Claiborne, the co-host of America's Heroes Group. We had 4 great shows today.
We sure did.
I mean, off the top. Excellence.
Yeah.
So thank you to all of our partners and guest panelists. Especially thank you to our global listening audience for watching us live stream on Facebook and America's Heroes Group YouTube channel. Please feel free to call America's Heroes Group at any given time regarding affordable housing, social services, wellness, healthcare issues, comments at 312-803-2618. We're located at 155 North Wacker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois. Thank you so much to our technical producer, Justin. Great job today. Yes, one of the best at WVON. To the only digital media producer that America's Heroes Group will ever have, Ivan Ortega, and happy belated anniversary to he and his wife. That's when he wasn't here last week because he was out celebrating with his wife.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, yes. Please get vaccinated if you're not, and get a booster, please, because it's that time of the year where summer is starting to wind down, winter is coming in. So people, it is what it is with this COVID-19. So please feel safe enough. You've seen other people that are vaccinated. It's okay to get vaccinated to protect yourself and your family members. Please get vaccinated. Thank you every week for listening to America's Heroes Group. Cliff Kelley, Dr. Damian Arnold, Sean Claiborne, America's Heroes Group. Blessings. Have a wonderful weekend.
See you next time.
Welcome to America's Heroes Group. Hear your voice where we connect the disconnected intentionally.